Hello and welcome to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Chris, and today we're talking about Google Ads. Specifically, I'm talking about 9 super sneaky settings that waste money in your Google Ads. I am devoting all of today's episode on this topic, so if you want to hear all 9, we're going to start right here. So jumping right into it. Usually I do questions. I don't really have any questions I want to discuss today. I actually have a lack of questions in my inbox right now. So if you guys could fill that inbox up, I would appreciate it. You can send a question in at paidsearchpodcast@gmail.com, paidsearchpodcast@gmail.com. Fill that thing up because I want to do a Q&A episode here soon, and I'd love to get some good questions in. Send in some questions about your bidding, your problems that you're having with Google Ads. Maybe I can offer some suggestions. Don't be shy. Appreciate sending those in. All right, so I'm going to start with number 1. And the very first one is a setting that I consider to be the most sneaky and most destructive and most potentially budget-wasting setting in Google Ads, period. Okay? It is the auto-apply recommendations. Okay? Auto-apply recommendations is where the Google Ads system is allowed to basically click apply to any suggestions that it has for your campaigns. So there's a way to turn this off, because I don't recommend that you do it, because there are specific things about this auto-apply recommendations that I could show you specific accounts that have been absolutely demolished because of this. One example of auto-apply recommendations is this. There is a auto-apply recommendation that will allow Google to add keywords without your permission. So it will just come up with a keyword based on what it thinks you're trying to get, based on the conversions that you're getting and different things like that. It will add keywords. I can tell you that the keywords that this thing adds are almost always junk keywords. For example, I was just working with a company that does like deaf translation services, sign language services. And one of the examples I saw on the account is they had the word, I think it was deaf, just as a keyword. Or maybe it was interpreter, or just some one word keyword, broad match, that Google was spending money on. This is not because the manager added this keyword, not because they were even aware that this keyword was added, because it can happen without warning. It can add keywords as it deems to be relevant. And most of the time, 99% of the time, I would say, the keywords are bad. They are not keywords that you want to add. And I've only found that the system adds broad match keywords exclusively. So be careful of this. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I have great news. I have recorded a short video, because this is a podcast. It's not a very visual aid, but I realize there are some settings that I'm going to talk about here that you don't know where they are. So I'm going to add a link to this podcast, or in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're listening or watching. You can click that link and it will take you to a short video, and you can watch this video and I show you where all of these things are. The very first one that I show is where this auto-apply recommendation is and how to turn it off. Okay, that is the number one thing. The auto-apply recommendation system can change your ads, your bidding, settings in your account, whether you're targeting search partners and display, it'll turn that on. It turns on all kinds of stuff. So what happens, the end result of what happens, and I have a specific account that I have worked with for years, where this account had an absolute just phenomenal year back in like 2021, 2022. Okay, this was before I was working with them. And somehow this auto-apply recommendation system got turned on. And what happened was, over time, the campaign started losing momentum. Suddenly, the conversion rate started to kind of dwindle. And this is after weeks Then after a couple months, it dwindles more, dwindles. And then at the end, whenever the person, the business owner, the internal, this is a person managing their own account, internally they notice something's off. And by that time, it is so far gone. There's so many settings. The bidding strategy has been changed. There's been new keywords that have been added. The display network, the search partners have been added. There's so many things that have been done here that it's impossible for the campaign to turn back to what it was. It's gone. It's unrecognizable. It's completely changed. This is why I say this is the most destructive thing that you can do. Not because the auto apply purposefully tries to wreck your account, but many of these recommendations are not something that you should just apply. There might be a few, but in no way should it be enabled to just apply everything, certainly without your approval. And that's what the auto apply, it automatically applies all the recommendations that you allow it to auto apply without your permission, without your knowledge. So that's number one. That is number one sneaky setting in Google Ads that I think you should turn off. And again, look for the link. It's a link on my own website. So it's a chrisschaefer.com link that you'll find. You can go there and watch the short video and you'll see everything that I point out and how to change it. Okay, moving on to number two. Before I get on to number two, I want to tell you about optio.com/PSP. That is the special link that you can use to utilize a software that will help you find these sneaky settings. It will point out things like, for example, if the auto apply system changes and adds a keyword that suddenly starts getting 60% of your traffic, and it's going to notice those things. If your conversion rate starts dropping, it's going to notify you. This is the core of what the system does. I talk about Optio all the time. It is the only software that I recommend on this podcast for years now and for forever, as far as I'm concerned. I've never found anything quite as good as Optio. And you can try it for free at optio.com/PSP. It does a lot of things, but the core thing that it does is it helps you to optimize your Google Ads account more efficiently, more effectively, and find major issues that it flags and you can take care of before they become a problem. opteo.com/PSP. That link is also in the description. Get 2 months for free of Optio with that special link. All right, number two, optimization score. So I'm already off to a bad start here because this is not actually a setting, but I do feel that it's a very sneaky internal system that can cause many people to make mistakes in their Google Ads account. So the optimization score, again, is in that video that I link in the description. It shows you what Google thinks about your account. And I'll tell you right now, the optimization score, to cut straight to it, does not matter. There are successful accounts that have a 20% optimization score. There are successful accounts that have a 98% optimization score. It's not that a successful account is always going to ignore optimizations or ignore recommendations, but it's just that it is not a accurate measurement to tell whether you're being successful in Google Ads or not. So let me back up and explain what it is and what it's not. So optimization score is tied directly to the recommendations. When you apply a recommendation, you get a percentage added to your optimization score. So if you have a 50% optimization score at the moment, and then you apply one of the recommendations that Google gives you, you now might have a 55% optimization score. It might give you a 55% rating as opposed to the 50 because you got a 5% extra bonus. This gamification of these recommendations guarantees nothing of success. Granted, there may be some things that need to be addressed. your account might be running manual CPC, manual bids. And you might need to go ahead and jump into target CPA. And the recommendation might say, we will give you a 40% recommendation or 40% optimization score bump if you turn on target CPA. That could be great. But for other people, it could be absolutely destructive. I find that the system is not a unbiased recommendation. It tends to push towards higher automation. It tends to push towards broader, wider reaching suggestions. And because of that, it's not entirely something that I could ever get behind recommending. It's not something I find to be unbiased in its recommendations. So optimization score is a sneaky setting that I think you should ignore. And moving on now to number 3. Number 3 sneaky setting is the display network. Okay, this is, and I'm putting these in order, by the way. These are ones that I think are the most destructive. Okay, there's others that you might say, well, Chris, you should have talked about this because that goes right along with that. I'm putting these in order of destruction. So number 1 was auto apply recommendations. Number 2 is right up next to it. It's the cousin of auto apply recommendations. It's the optimization score, which is directly associated with the recommendation system. So display network is my 3rd most destructive setting, because for people that want to run ads for lead generation, e-commerce, it is, I think I've only seen it once in my entire 21 years to ever see a display campaign consistently send qualified leads on a search campaign. So a display network running on a search campaign almost always, 99% of the time, is going to deliver junk traffic. Now, granted, sometimes it's not going to spend very much. It might only spend 5%, 10% of your budget. But most accounts are underspent on their Google.com text ads. So that 5, 10, 20% could have gone to text ads, which are much more likely to be someone interested in the moment. The display network are mobile apps, games, YouTube, people checking the weather, people reading articles, doing social media, stuff like that. There's millions and millions of sites that this could show on. And you are electing to allow your text ads, which are designed for Google.com searches, to be shown on mobile phones that are playing a game, kid game apps, or kid video apps, or little drawing apps and stuff like that. These things are clicked on. I can tell you unequivocally that these display ads are clicked on. It's not a matter of just getting impressions. And very often I see, especially in the junk apps, that this will sometimes show in, you get 25%, 30%, 50% click-through rates. So you're not only showing on junk apps, but you're getting these click arbitration kind of things where the apps will show the ad and then kind of trick people into clicking them. So they get paid, Google gets paid, and you spend your money. So display network is not something that I ever would suggest that you run on a search campaign. It's a very broad statement. I'm talking to a lot of people, a lot of different kind of campaigns, a lot of different situations. Never, I'm going to say it, never run the display network on a search campaign. So don't turn it on. And again, I'll show you how to turn it off in that link. All right, next is number 4, search terms. So I've deviated a little bit. This is not a setting. So there's nothing to turn off here, but it's something that is internal in Google Ads that a lot of people don't realize they need to check. So if you're not aware, when you choose a keyword in Google Ads, you're choosing a guiding point for Google to get you traffic. Okay? Imagine, and I have kids, so I think kids are always an excellent illustration for Google Ads. Imagine you tell your toddler or kindergartner, something like that, go stand over there, and you just kind of point. Okay? You did not give instructions on how to get there or where exactly. It was just kind of a general thing, right? How precise do you expect those instructions to be followed? Sometimes, if you're one of my daughters, maybe not at all. They didn't even go over there. They, in fact, ran the opposite direction. Sometimes it can be completely not at all what you wanted, okay? And sometimes it could hit right on the mark, but that's actually a surprise, okay? That is what broad match keywords represent to me. Broad match keywords represent some generic pointing instruction to a toddler, kindergartner, whatever, and you're actually going to be surprised when it hits it on the mark, when it goes exactly as it should. That's what broad keywords do. Phrase and exact keywords do that, but now just instead of a toddler, a kindergartner, now we might move the age up to a 5th grader, 6th grader, and exact keywords might be closer to, hopefully your teenager doing what you say. You would certainly expect it, and you're not surprised when it happens, but you don't expect it to be flawless, right? That's a very good illustration. If you have kids, that's a very good illustration of how broad, phrase, and exact work. So the problem is when you give Google these instructions with a keyword, you're pointing and saying, I want this. And when you use broad match, don't expect it to hit the mark. And when you use phrase, expect it to hit the mark most of the time. And when you use exact, you should expect it to hit the mark the vast majority of time. Okay, and you don't know how much you're missing the mark unless you look at your search terms. This is the basis of guiding the quality of your traffic in Google Ads. If you don't look at your search terms, you don't know if your instructions are being followed in the way that they should. Right? You're giving instructions and just assuming that it happens. So it is your responsibility to check these search terms. If you don't check the search terms, you're not making sure that your traffic's being represented properly. So the key thing to remember here for number 4, the sneaky thing about Google Ads is if you only measure your success by what you see at the keyword tab, that is not correct. You should also focus on the search terms. What are the keywords actually doing? The search terms represent what people searched on Google. Very, very important. Okay. Moving on now with number 5. And again, this is getting less and less concerning, but still it's making my top 9 list. And this is not a gimmick because I came up with 9. I didn't even do 10. There's 9 because this is exactly how many I thought really mattered. Okay? Number 5, site links automatically created in your account. This is something that has happened in the past couple years much, much more aggressively. So for those that don't know, site links are those additional links that can show underneath your ad. It'll say, get more information, or contact us today, or learn about our team, or get prices, right? It's great. It can lead people to internal pages that would more thoroughly address their problem, situation, question, whatever it is they want to see. So the problem is that these automated site links can grab pages on your website that absolutely should not be landing pages for people coming from Google Ads. For example, our team, right? I've seen those in ads a lot. And what it does is it's pulling your list of employees and creating a site link called Our Team, and people can search for a certain keyword, divert from going to your headline URL, right? Your actual devoted landing page, your website, whatever it is you're pointing people to, your homepage, whatever. Instead of clicking on that headline, they click on About Us. And now they're going to a page of your employees. Probably haven't looked at that page at all. You probably are not optimizing that page. That page probably does not have a call to action, a phone number on it, or a contact form, or any kind of representation of what your business does. These automated site links are not a problem in themselves, except they can get clicks. So now imagine these junk site links that's automatically created by Google that pull 5, 10, 15, 20% of your traffic to this arbitrary page that you don't realize traffic is going to. You're not going to know. It's not going to report how much traffic is going to these. And there's a special way to do it in Google Ads where you have to actually see this extension versus other. You have to segment for that information. But the important thing is, if you don't pay attention to these automatically created site links, and in particular turn off the ability for Google to create them, you are potentially losing some percentage of your money to these. I see it all the time, especially this year. It seems like it's incredibly aggressive this year, how much they're being created. I see accounts with 50, 60, 100, 200 of these automatically created site links, especially for sites with lots and lots of pages. It loves to grab those pages and just load them up and then start showing them on your ads. So in the video, I show you how to turn that off. Very important, okay? So next, number six for sneaky settings in Google Ads. This is very specific, so you're gonna have to roll with me here, okay? This is something that I'm speaking to maybe 40% of you out there that are running call ads, okay? Call ads are not call extensions. I'm not talking about call assets. I'm talking about call ads. It is where you put a phone number and you put a headline and a description, and basically the only option is for people to click the phone number and call you, right? That is what a call ad is. It used to be called a call-only ad. And guess what? It's not called call-only anymore. It's called a call ad now because there's a sneaky setting that will allow a call ad to be a website click ad. All right, so when you pull up call ad and you set one up, there's two blanks in this call ad. There's one for verification URL and there's one for final URL. If you put your website into final URL, you are allowing Google to show your website and your phone number. But maybe you're only expecting phone calls. Maybe your website is not really very good. It's not been updated. You don't want to pay for people to go to your website. You only want phone calls. That's all you want. Do not put final URL in your call ads unless you want people to be able to click on your website link and go to your website. You should only use verification URL. Leave the final URL blank. It is optional. The only requirement for a call ad is put a phone number, verification URL, a couple of text lines of ad copy, and that's it. You do not have to use final URL. And here's why I think this is a problem. We're going to go a little into the weeds here, but stay with me. There's a particular reason this is a waste of money for you. When you put a final URL, people can go to your website and not just call you. But the thing is, in order to get a call ad to show on Google, it costs 2-3 times more. So if a website click costs you $5 for a normal text ad, then a call ad might cost you $15 for it to get to show up for mobile traffic with just a phone number. Now imagine if you are bidding $15 for your call ad to show up, and then someone clicks on your website and goes to your website, you paid the call ad price for a website click. Any other way would have cost you $5. This way it costs you 2 to 3 times more, because call ads require a higher ad rank threshold. I'm not going to go into that. That's a deep, dark, complex pit of quality score and ad rank and all of that. But just believe me, call ads require a higher ad rank. And because of that, you have to pay a higher CPC. And if they click on your website, you just paid that $15 click to just go to the website, and you didn't get a call from the ad as you had intended. So very important there. All right. Number 7, I don't think will be a surprise to many of you, but want to remind you, take a quick break here and remind you about optio.com/PSP. Very important that you make sure you're not missing any critical aspects of your Google Ads account. It is a amazing system that overlooks your account, helps you with the account, keeps you accountable on your account, and helps with amazing deep level tools, including the very popular the Ngram tool, which I've talked about. There's a new scorecard system. There's reporting involved. There's budget management, bid management, conversion tracking whenever ads are disapproved, all kinds of things. You're going to like it. Try it for free at optio.com/PSP. All right, number 7. We're almost on the home stretch here of the final ones, but this one cannot be ignored. It is search partners. So it's lower on the list. This is something that I can tolerate, but it does represent risk. If you allow search partners on your Google.com search campaign, you can pretty much guarantee you're at least going to lose about 10% of your spend to the search partners. You say, Chris, what are you talking about, search partners? What is that? Well, it's a conglomeration of many different search engines that you've never heard of. If I back when I had a Patreon and I did deep dives and stuff and videos and all kinds of stuff, I did a deep dive on this and showed my patrons all the different kinds of stuff that comes on search partners and what those look like and things like that. I will shorten it with, you've never heard of these people. Very often they are super spammy. You wouldn't go on these sites. You don't use these sites. I don't know, what these are. Many times they're, things that, are search engines that are built into websites. For example, if you do a search on a website, there's a Google ad that could actually pop up on there through the search partners. So it's not Google.com. It's not a search engine. It's an internal search engine for another website, and that's where your ad can show up, right? So someone could be looking up recipes, and your ad could show on that site. So it's not something I recommend. Again, I show you how to turn that off. Very easy on how to turn it off in the link in the description. Number 8. This is, actually, I don't know why I put this so low, mainly because it doesn't happen to a lot of people, but when it does, it can be incredibly destructive, absolutely just bafflingly confusing and very difficult for people to get around. But it is the broad match keyword setting. Now you say, Chris, what are you talking about? Broad match keyword, that's not a setting. That's a keyword. That's a match type. Well, if you go to the settings at your campaign level, there is a setting called broad match keywords. Thanks so much, Google, for the super confusing terminology here, but that's what it's called. It's called broad match keywords, and you can turn that on or off. Now, if it's turned off, you'll never have a problem with anything that I'm about to talk about. If it's off, it's off. It's not going to get turned on unless you turn it on. If you have it on, here's what it does. It causes your Google Ads campaign to only be able to run broad match keywords. You literally cannot change a keyword from broad to phrase. Not allowed, doesn't exist, does not compute, period. You cannot run phrase, you cannot run exact, you can only run broad match. Now, this was introduced, I believe, this year, maybe last year, so it's relatively new. But this little setting has, for the few people that have this setting, it is incredibly sneaky and confusing because they think, oh, I'm adding keywords. And they hear people talk about phrase and exact and different match types, and they're like, well, I don't have that. I don't know what you're talking about. And they could try and look that up and try and add phrase match, but they can't. It actually disables those abilities. So, of course, you've heard my analogy to broad match and how it works there, right? Hey, little kid, go over there, right? Don't expect a lot. You're going to be surprised when it does happen. Don't expect that it's going to happen very often, right? And that's the entire experience they get with Google Ads. 100% broad match all the time. Can be very frustrating. Very little control. So this setting, which I show you how to turn off if you have it on, is very destructive. Make sure this is turned off. So if you've been listening to my podcast for any amount of time and you're like, I've always kind of wondered, what's he talking about with these phrase match and exact match keywords? I don't have that. Check this setting because it is super sneaky, and there's a very few percentage of people out there listening to my podcast that have this setting. But if you do, you'll just be mind blown on, I can't believe I've had this on the whole time. Now I have so many more tools at my fingertips. You'll be so excited. So email me if that blew your mind. Let me know because I don't see it happen very often, but when it does, it is absolutely just a game changer for people. All right. And number 9 is probably my least impactful, but mainly because it's untrackable now. And it is location target. So this is an advanced setting. It's the location options setting in Google Ads that is called presence or interest. So if you're choosing to advertise in the United States, right? You go to Google, you set up a campaign, you target the greatest country in the world, and it seems like you're getting calls, clicks, you're checking your analytics from Google Ads, and you're seeing traffic come from outside the country. How is that? Well, this sneaky setting could be allowing people that are outside the United States, let's say Mexico, Canada, right? Right next to us, right? And they're doing searches, but their search is something in the USA. The ad can show for them outside the country because their search intent, their interest is inside the United States. So if they're looking for, car rental, and they want car rental in the United States, that might be great because people that are traveling to the United States may not be here yet. They're not presently in the area, but they have an interest in the area. Maybe that works for you. Maybe that's good. But I find most people like to have different campaigns. If you want to do that, most people prefer, okay, I'm going to target Canada, but all my keywords are going to be U.S. car rental or car rental in a certain city, state, area. That's something to do a different campaign over. Most people don't prefer to mash that together with one simple little setting here because there is no accountability for how much is going out of country, out of area. There is no setting in Google Ads to see user location. User location reporting is deleted. It went away, I think, 2 user interfaces ago, right? 2 Google Ads updates ago. So it's gone, long gone. We cannot see that and haven't been able to see it for 6 years or something. So if you have that on, be aware you could be getting traffic outside your city, county, state, country, all because they're searching for inside the country. And be aware, like I said, it's not that it's always a bad thing. It's just that it's unaccountable, untrackable. There's no way to know how much is happening. And that's what I don't like. I don't like campaigns that will be doing things that I cannot track, I cannot measure. That is always what concerns me with Google Ads. So if you think you might be having problems with some of these, and if you want a professional level help with that, I offer management of Google Ads where I can take over the account and get you better results. And if you're looking for training, someone to guide you through and maybe build a campaign with you or show you stuff that I talk about here, I offer live consulting where I walk you through the account in a live Zoom session. Those are available for booking on my website, or you can reach out to me for management if you're interested as well. And otherwise, for the rest of you, thank you so much for listening, subscribing, leaving positive reviews, and I'll catch you